Hey guys, Indy here with Ultimate Tool Reviews. Well, I picked up something kind of cool recently that someone ended up just throwing away. This is the Makita BMR100 Jobsite radio. Now, it's kind of interesting that it doesn't actually include Bluetooth. It's a little bit older model, didn't really have Bluetooth at the time. They released a few newer models now that have Bluetooth, and it's kind of cool, but it still actually works as a radio. And it's also got two auxiliary jacks on it as well. So that allows you to, add in Bluetooth later on. Now I picked up one of these little Bluetooth modules. This is the Bezos 5.0 off Amazon. And it's a pretty cool little module, only 20 bucks, connects right to your phone, and you've got Bluetooth right away on this thing. So if you pick up one of these that's really cheap, or you pick up just a regular radio, but it's got an auxiliary jack, you can add Bluetooth in quite easily. Now, if you haven't seen these Makita radios, they're actually pretty cool. And I was kind of wondering how well it would sound by just having two speakers, one on each side, and that's about it. I think it actually sounds pretty decent for what it is. And I picked this thing up actually, like I said, out of the trash, and I was kind of wondering why someone would throw it away. So I basically brought it home, cleaned it all up, simple green the whole thing. Now Makita says it's got their, their ultimate protection technology, which doesn't really mean anything because they don't really tell you if it's IP56, IP57. It just tells you that it's got better sealing for dirt and water. I wish Makita would actually tell you which IP rating it actually is. Makita claims it's got much better protection on a lot of the XGT items, but they of course don't mention the IP rating. Now this thing, when I found it, was pretty much being rained on. It was covered in mud, 100% totally wet still, but when I got it fired right up, no issue with it at all. I only had two small issues with it that you might have maybe with your radios here and there. And up here on the handle, one of the screws is missing, and it was basically covered in tape to kind of fix that temporarily. But it's a pretty easy screw to find. I found it just in my extra screw bin that I had. It wasn't a hard thing to find. And also the power cable down here would not really stay just in there. So it would oftentimes, power off if the cable was a little loose. But if you leave it stationary, you get the power cable in just right, it works fine. However though, I've got it with the battery inside, and it's actually a pretty easy setup with the battery here. So you just open this up, battery goes right in there. There's a little AA port just in there as well too, for putting the batteries in, and that's really easy to use there for keeping the clock set to accurate times. When you pull the battery out, you pull the AC out. So not a huge deal there, but kind of cool to note that. It's kind of hidden down there as well too. And there's also a second auxiliary jack kind of hidden right in here. It's called auxiliary 2. It's the green jack. It's right above that battery in there. Let's pull this battery out here. I can show you that. It's also got the older stick pack battery styles, just like I think Milwaukee still has on some of their radios, and I think DeWalt definitely has that on their vacuums as well too, which is kind of interesting. But interesting to see that that is actually in there, so you could actually close this with this unit in there if you had power to it somehow, and it would be all set. Now this is actually a gasket on this thing for basically sealing it for water and dust. It's got a little gasket that's on this side. It's pretty small, but it does the job quite effectively. The power cable was actually wrapped up in here when I found it in the trash, and it worked just fine. There was no water actually in here at all, which is pretty interesting. Other than that, it's got some nice bumpers on it, and up here, it's got a little bit of rust. I know the little rubber boot on the antenna fell off recently. It was totally dry rotted, basically just crumbled in your hand when you try to pull it off. Now, kind of a cool find. I like finding stuff at the dump. I go there often, and not to look for stuff, but I'm always dumping stuff off here and there. But really cool to find something like this, at the dump. Always fun to maybe take it apart, clean it up, and see if you can fix it. I feel like I find a good amount of tools at the dump here and there. So always kind of fun figuring out what you can find. But overall though, I do think it's a really cool unit for what it is. I'll put the battery back in here for just a second. And when you hit that battery back in, you'll hear that little beep. It means that it has power again. Little latch on the top that you can seal it. You can also push this handle down, give you a little more compact size there. Now on the screen it's going to go blue, and then once it is done, you can actually turn it back on. And now we can turn it on. So it's kind of a little weird that you actually will tap this once, and that allows you to tune. Tap it again, and that takes you to the volume, which is kind of interesting there. It's got presets that of course don't save unless you have a power supply always plugged in. And then to change inputs is a little weird here. So of course it's got the band up here. I can go AM, FM, but if I have something plugged into an auxiliary jack like I do right now, when you hit that again, it gives you an auxiliary 1, plug in the back, it's auxiliary 2. However, if you unplug this, it won't give you that option for any auxiliary jacks. So kind of cool that works out. I wish kind of Makita had all these with Bluetooth. Of course, that wasn't an option whenever this thing came out. Let me see if there's actually a date code on here. Looks like it, date code is 2016 is the date code on here. So, of course, that would make sense. These are made in China. This is not a made in Japan Makita, but always cool to see what Makita is up to. But I'll leave the link in the description, guys, below for this unit. I'm not sponsored by this company at all. I don't get any money if you guys buy this unit for the Bluetooth. I'm just sharing a kind of a cool little Bluetooth adapter that works really well. And also on this Bluetooth adapter, it has the, of course, 3.5mm jack out, but it also has RCA left and right out too, which is kind of handy there in case you've got maybe a different audio system. There's many options for audio system integration with Bluetooth, but I don't want to spend $100, $200, $300 on something that I'm going to use in my garage. I just want something that's going to be cheap and just works every time. So this unit's actually been pretty cool, pretty nifty, and a great way to get something like this Makita radio actually back and being useful again. I didn't just want to throw it away. I'm sure that's why the person probably threw it away, having issue with that AC jack, and of course no Bluetooth. You can find the Bluetooth editions of these on eBay for like 90 bucks. They're really not that expensive. There's even for daily deals. You can find a little bit smaller ones for around 60, 70, 80 bucks as well too. So it's something that's gonna be very expensive or pretty affordable to find these, but if you're find one that's if I had a radio, DeWalt, Milwaukee, Makita, Rigid, Ryobi, that's gonna be not Bluetooth, check and see if it's got an auxiliary jack. If it does, you can add in Bluetooth quite easily. So really cool, to find something that you can, quickly modify like that without much effort. Add in a little component and boom, you got Bluetooth again. So all in all, it's only cost me 20 bucks basically just for this adapter, and about 10 minutes and some simple green to get this thing cleaned back up, and overall it works pretty fine, works fine. Other than that, it's got a few, cracks in the screen here, kind of some rust on all the hardware on the outside. But other than that, pretty cool unit, and I like to see what Makita does, making reliable products. Really like what they do. So guys, thanks for watching, and take care, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video.